So we're replacing the new waste tube arrangement and the replacement for the solenoid. You'll need a set of Allen head wrenches. One will be a 5/32 for taking the bottom screw off of the cover, side covers, and the handle screws takes a 3/16. The screws for the solenoid is a 2.5 millimeter.
Allen wrench, okay.
And to take the nut off the tubing, you need a 7/16. And to pull the wires, you'll need a pair of needle nose pliers. You can probably pull them by hand. Okay, so we'll get started
Okay.
now. First thing you want to do is lift the top. Engage that. Take the water bottles off. With their caps. Unfortunately, you have to lay on the floor to get the bottom screw out. It's centered in the bottom on the side cover. And that's the
Right side panel.
5/32 Allen head wrench for that screw under there.
Okay.
And then you go to the 3/16 and take the bolts off of the handle. And just remove the cover from the side, and set to the side, and then go to the other side. And repeat the same thing. Bottom screw first.
And the handle screws.
Yeah.
Okay, remove the side.
And then, if you notice, this is the grease I was telling you about that's very nasty on your clothing, and you want to stay away from.
So avoid that.
This one here has the old valve in it. So we're going to replace this valve here, which is the older MAC valve.
Okay.
Some of the units will have the newer valve in, which the holes will already be drilled in. And that valve will look like this here, and it'll be attached here. So the
Okay.
arrow's pointing in direction of flow is that way. So if you have the older valve, you remove this valve here, and then you use this pattern to drill out 2 new holes. If the old valve is present, then use a 3/32 Allen head wrench to remove the screws. Get her off to that first. Take your 7/16 inch wrench and just remove the 2 nuts here. Tube with a T on it is your output tube. The tube that has the filter back close to the air tank is your input tube. Next step will be to trim the cable ties. the one wire will come up to this point right here. So you just pull that one off and then pull it on down through. The other one will go over to the black terminal strip on the other side. The wires off of this one are a little easier identified because they have this writing on them and they look different than the other wires. So a little easier to identify. If the other valve's in place, then you don't need to take these wires off. And now you can just pull that wire on through. There. Okay. So at this point here, take the paper pattern that's sent with the unit and lay down here and use a starter punch to start 2 holes into it. There.
So where are the holes punched down?
Right here and right there.
So they're both in completely different places than the old ones.
Right. Lay down a piece of protective paper underneath to catch the chips.
You don't want any chips to get down on that connector block down below. Short things out.
Then drill them out with a 187 diameter drill bit,
Okay.
or slightly larger. Scrape off the excess, vacuum it out if possible. And just remove this and take off the excess chips. Now you can take the 3 wires that are sent along with it. And this one here will go over to the terminal block,
That's the longest one?
the longest one. Feed it on down through the hole. Move that. Run it to the opposite side. And go on the other side and reattach. There it is. Okay. And then take this one and attach to the first terminal here, run it down through. If the light doesn't hold up very well. Attach this one to here.
That one gets attached. I gotta see where it's going here.
Oh, to this terminal right here,
Okay. That's on top of the relay?
on top of the relay.
Okay.
take the 2mm and remove the 2 screws that were sent with it.
Was it the mounting screws for the new valve?
Right.
Okay.
Check direction of flow so that the arrow's coming like this.
Where's the arrow flow?
Arrow flow coming this way. Input, output.
Okay, the little arrow on top.
Right.
Got it.
So attach the ground wire. The terminal plug here. Okay. Now either one of these lines can go to either point. It's
Okay.
unimportant.
Interchangeable.
They're interchangeable.
Okay.
So go ahead and put these on at this point. It's easier to get them. It's easier with a pair of needle nose.
Yeah. Well, those are pretty tight.
They're pretty stiff. Okay. You're going to take your 2 screws.
You can get to trim some insulation, or you can just push it over.
You can actually push it over, but it'd be easier to trim it a little bit.
Okay.
And rip it out, but you can actually just push it over.
Okay.
And go ahead and start your 2 screws. Okay.
It's attached.
Okay, now take your 7/16" wrench. The tube with the T on it goes to this side here.
To the outside.
Okay. The tube without the T and the filter into the back goes to this side here. That's the input.
Okay.
Okay. Now this one here might actually be easier if you do trim back the foam, but you can just pull it back with your
Yeah.
hand. Okay. Now I go get another tool. The ground cable will come down and go to the same ground point as the electric motor. It's right here. So
Right on the side.
Right. So you remove the nut off of that with a 11/32 wrench.
Okay. Let's go get.
And add on the ground to the solenoid.
The previous valve did not have a ground wire?
No, the previous valve did not have a ground wire.
Okay. So now the motor and the valve go to the same ground.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Then now go back if you have cable ties available, retie wrap the few cables that are up here.
Okay.
Okay, next we'll move on to replacing the waste tank connection.
Okay.
So just open up the back door.
You wanna turn the unit so it's
Oh.
easier to get to?
Okay. Okay, open up the back door and then just remove all the connections. And then just pop the easiest way to do this would be to pop the lid and pull the bottom of the tank out. Okay. And come to the side. Okay. And twist this tube. And then work it out. It's a little stiff, so it takes some twisting and moving. And once that's out, you can just pull this out. And then take, of course you'd want gloves, take this and break this nut. And throw this part away. this part here away. Right? Not that.
Okay, so this is the old lid.
Clean the lid of any excess material of silicone, if there's any silicone there.
Okay.
Take the new grommet, place inside. Make sure it's well seated. And that's the new top.
Okay.
You can put this back on then. Okay. Take the new tube, put through the hole. If there's any material here, matting material, tear that matting material off.
Okay.
So the tube has a little bit more flow, movement to it. And then use some kind of lubricant around the fitting. It can be even Vaseline or something to make the tube just slide in easier.
Sure.
Work it back. That's plenty far. Now simply take the tank and replace it. Probably easiest to put this around first. This will plop right into here, so you might have to adjust it a little bit. There we go. And now it comes in easier now, so it's much
Okay.
easier to take the tank in and
Oh,
out.
yeah.
Okay. A lot easier, actually. And
Plugging in the.
we plug in the electric sensor, or the unit won't actually function. And re-put this back together. Just see that thing was twisted. We put this tube back in, and re-put this tube back in, and you're done. Which would be forward. So forward. Okay, it's in the off position right now.
One from the right.
Right.
Okay.
Okay,
So
run it
test
in.
it.
Turn it on. Open position, it's a closed position. Here's open. Close that one off. Then you turn on the vacuum. Press the vacuum. Should be able to pull your arm from about that distance. I'm 63, so I can pull my arm from this distance. Feel sufficient on vacuum. You can also see the tank pull down a little bit on top. It'll pull down a little as you go there.
Oh, yeah.
Now to test the valve, just use, turn on your vacuum.
Okay.
And see that you got air coming out of this.
Okay. Okay.
So while you're doing this, you can actually take your hand piece and use air to hear that switch. You hear that click and there's no air coming out of here right now.
Okay.
When it goes up to charge,
it opens there and you hit air coming back out.
Okay.
So if you repeat this 15 times, it'll guarantee that that valve's working properly. I didn't hear it click, but it did. Right now, there's no air coming out of that, so it clicks off. Get this, it shuts the unit off.
Okay.
So that's the repair.
That's it.
And just replace the covers.
Okay, yeah.